Your flashlight is a defensive tool. Let's take a closer look. Now let's imagine that Joe gets off work in the evening and he walks out to his truck in the parking lot. When he does so, he is approached by a hooded individual. He goes ahead and he grabs his tactical flashlight and he points it down at the feet of his would-be assailant.
Hey man, can I borrow your cell phone? My car broke down just down the road there. I gotta call my girlfriend. Can
I can't do it for you, man. I'm sorry.
I just need to borrow your cell phone just
for.
Hey!
This is a tragic situation. Joe has made a number of mistakes, and I think that if Joe had properly used his handheld flashlight, he could have deterred, stopped, or even given himself critical seconds in this bad situation. We had that situation play out in a recent low light class. Now in contrast, in the exact same situation, another student actually put his hand on his pistol, deployed the flashlight directly into the would-be assailant's eyes, and that gave him critical time.
Hey man, can I borrow your cell phone?
No, man.
Hey, you don't gotta do me like that. Hey, I just want to borrow a cell phone.
Man, I ain't got a cell phone.
Sorry,
man. Back off. My phone's dead. You gotta find someone else.
Oh man, all right.
Back off, man.
Screw you, man. Screw you.
In that time, he actually backed up, got off of the attack vector of the assailant, and kept that flashlight in the assailant's eyes. The assailant, knowing that he would not get close enough, ended up backing off, and the whole situation was diffused without ever having to deploy a handgun. So this illustrates how flashlights can be a great tool in our defensive arsenal. Now for most of us, there are times when we cannot be armed. And there are also times when using and deploying a handgun is not the proper response for a particular threat. Tactical flashlight can help us deter and identify threats in low light. Let's talk technique. As we found out earlier, technique can make all the difference. First, deploy that flashlight early. We know that a flashlight is not a deadly weapon, so we can get that up and in a potential assailant's eyes very early, and that can help us determine their intent. Second, deploy the light beam directly into the eyes. Don't mess around with splashing it on the ground in front of the potential assailant. Get it in their eyes. If they go ahead and cover their eyes, turn away, hey man, I'm sorry, get that light out of my eyes, you might determine that they're not a threat. On the other hand, if they're like, okay man, don't do that, and continue approaching you through a painful light, and we know from experience how painful a light can be if you're looking at it. If they keep aggressing towards you, then that helps you take evasive or defensive maneuvers as appropriate. And like we said earlier, if you get it on early and at a distance, this gives you time, and time is super important when you're in a defensive situation. The third technique is to move. You get the light up, you get it in their eyes, they're still at a little bit of a distance, but they're closing the distance on you. Now is the time to move. Put something between you and the potential assailant, another car, back up, get off the X. Technique number 4, of course, is to determine the threat level. You've got this light on this potential assailant, and they are continuing to aggress on you. Well, maybe you need to call the cops. Maybe you do need to draw your handgun at that time, but this gives you a little bit more time to make those determinations. Okay, so that's a brief overview of the techniques. So what are some of the features we might look for in a handheld light? First is size. You want something that you're going to actually carry around and not think is a huge burden. I've got lights here of a number of sizes. Here is a Lumen Top Ant-Man. It happens to be an LEP light, and that one I could slip into my pocket pretty easily. carry around all day long and never know it's there, the output may not be quite what I want. And that's another consideration here in a minute. On the other hand, the Olight Warrior X3, boy, that's a powerful light. And it's even got some tactical glass breaker up front, and it's got a ring, it's got all the stuff. But it's a little heavy, a little chunky to be carrying around in my pocket all day. Not really sure if I want to carry that. Even if I'm, I've got a bag or something, or, for my wife, I don't know if I would recommend this because it's going to weigh her down, and I don't know if she's going to enjoy it. I think she would probably not actually use it. So you probably are looking somewhere in the middle ground. Our mod light, that's a pretty decent size. That's an 18650 battery size. Here's a Z-Bolt Blazer. That's about the same size. It's actually a little bit shorter because it uses a slightly shorter battery. I think that this is kind of a sweet spot as far as size. I think this Well Tool, this Olight are a little bit large. Even the Surefire might be a little bit large for pocket carry for me. These lights, not really sure if they've quite got the output that I'm looking for. They're really small, really handy. I will say that during our class, someone did have a very small pocket flashlight, and it was enough in a dark situation so our assailant couldn't quite close the distance while still seeing his would-be victim. And this light's probably a decent size as well. I like a smaller bezel because that tends to take up less room in my pocket, because when I drop this into my pocket, the size of the bezel kind of determines a lot about how much it takes. I also like a shorter light if possible. This Z-Bolt's pretty good size for me, as are these other twos. This Mod Light, and this is a Phoenix. Another feature that I'm looking for is a pocket clip, whether it's from the factory with a pocket clip like this Phoenix, or whether it's something aftermarket. So this is a Theorem switchback. This allows somebody to get a pocket clip on a light that has certain compatibility. These Theorems are made for a couple of different size bodies of flashlights, and they have to have a little bit of a spot where this can get assembled into. But I want a pocket clip, and the reason why I want a pocket clip is so that I can get that quick access that we talked about earlier. I want to go ahead and just have this at the ready in my pocket, and if I need to, I can go ahead and snatch that out, get that light up and on target. Or for a woman, a pocket clip helps you put it into a pocket in your purse and have it there at the ready where you know it's going to be, rather than, again, rolling around at the bottom. I want an accessible high mode. Personally, I want a one-mode flashlight. I want one where I can get up on target and it's just one mode, on, off. And that mode is a high mode. Speaking of high mode, we want high CANDELA. CANDELA is what makes it really hard for an assailant to see you. It's a focusing of the light output in a particular direction. That is what CANDELA is. And we want as much CANDELA on target as possible. The next thing we need is adequate runtime at high CANDELA. I don't think we're going to need a huge amount of runtime, but if I'm getting a light into someone's eyes, I don't want it dropping off immediately, where as his eyes are constricting and adjusting to see me, that light output is dropping and I'm losing my tactical advantage very quickly. I'd like to see about 5 minutes of good, strong CANDELA. I want a robust design. I want to know that one of these lights is going to work when I actually pull it out of my pocket. That robustness not only needs to be in the actual way it's made, I want it to be able to be dropped and still function, but I also want it to be designed in such a way that it's not going to be draining the battery while it's sitting in my pocket. Nothing worse than pulling out a flashlight because you need it and then finding out it's really, really dim because it's run through its battery. I alluded to it earlier. I want the ability to grip my pistol with two hands when I need to. That means that if I'm out and I'm shining a flashlight at someone and then I need to draw and I want to be able to get two hands on a target, well, maybe I've got to drop that flashlight and get out on a target, or maybe I use something like the switchback that allows me to go from illuminating to a two-handed grip while I'm still able to illuminate. So for that reason, the Theorem switchback's a good solution for me in many circumstances. And then I want a light that resists negligent discharge. If I'm carrying this in my pocket, then I don't want to bump into something, have that light turn on, bake my pocket, get it super hot, and then start discharging my battery and be a nuisance for me. I actually want a light that has perhaps a recessed button or a momentary only button that I can go ahead and use it when I need to, but if I don't need it, that it's not going to just turn on and bake my pocket. So there's a balance there in terms of switches. I guess, and maybe it is the last thing, is I want a tail cap switch. I want a switch that's on the top. I never have to guess where the switch is for it. So that's my overview. I honestly think that if you're carrying a pistol, I think it makes sense to actually carry a separate handheld light. You're not going to draw down on everyone approaching you, but we have seen that having a light can give you a distinct tactical advantage in many situations in low light. You can determine what somebody's doing, you can determine if they're a threat, and you can potentially even deter them or take away one of their senses, take away part of their eyesight by having a handheld light. And you can deploy it in situations where you would never be justified drawing a pistol to use a weapon-mounted light. Now, if you want to see all the data for handheld lights like this, we're going to be publishing that soon on lowlightdefense.com, and click the notification bell and subscribe button down below, and you will know when we post new content. Go on the journey with me. Let's take a look at all these lights and see which one might be best for defensive use. I'm Shan with Werkz. Thank you and have a blessed day.
I actually couldn't see you. I have no idea. It's like a baton handoff.
Were you saying die?
I don't know. I'm saying hey.